Congratulations, you've just found the number one over 50 health and wellness podcast on the planet. Hello and welcome to the Over 50 Health and Wellness Show. I'm your host, Kevin English. I'm a healthy aging expert and the founder of The Silver Edge, and I am on a mission to help men and women just like you build lean, strong, healthy, capable bodies they love for the rest of their lives. Okay, folks, so today I've got a special bonus episode of the Over 50 Health and Wellness podcast, and here's what's up. So yesterday, here in the United States, it is official. We now have a new, basically, health secretary. So a new leader for setting political policy for health here in the U.S. So RFK Jr. is, in fact, for better or worse, whether you love him or hate him, he is now our new Secretary of Health. So the reason I decided to hop on here and do a quick ad hoc podcast episode is I did a post on Instagram, and when I post on Instagram, it automatically goes over to my Facebook page. And wow, people really lost their minds on this post. So let me describe the post if you haven't seen it. You may have seen this picture. It showed up in my feed so many times, I finally just screen captured it and shared it in my feed. But the post is basically this. It's a picture on the left side of Rachel Levine. So she was the former Secretary of Health. And then over on the right side is a picture of RFK Jr. Now, this is not a particularly complimentary picture of Rachel Levine. She looks kind of old. She looks rather unhealthy. She looks obese in that picture. And then by contrast, it's RFK. And it's kind of a cheesy photo, actually. He's got his arms folded across his chest and he's got his gun showing. He's got these big biceps. And in the background, there's a waving American flag. But it's a striking picture in that one person looks rather sick and unhealthy, and the other person looks extremely healthy and vital. So I posted that with a caption, something along the line is, hey, change is coming, right? And I'll say this, we got more interactions on that post than probably anything else we've ever posted. So apparently y'all don't care so much if I post things about being healthy, building lean, strong, capable bodies, or eating nutritious food that honors your body, stuff like that you guys don't really interact with. But man, oh man, some of you all really got triggered by this post. And look, to be fair, I get it. I knew that this was going to be a politically charged post when I decided to put that up. I'm not so naive as to think, hey, I'm just trying to talk to you guys about health, right? And the stark contrast between the status quo and the promise of perhaps a brighter future when it comes to health. But it seems to me that was a very apt pictorial representation of what's going on politically right now when it comes to our health as Americans. So the outgoing Secretary of Health is Rachel Levine. If you're not familiar, she's 67 years old and not exactly a paragon of health. And as the health secretary advising the president on health policy issues, overseeing the Department of Health and Human Services, managing agencies like the CDC and the FDA, so that's the Center for Disease Control and the Food Drug Administration. But her main responsibility, or the main responsibility of our health secretary here in the U.S., is to be a thought leader and an implementer of health policies for U.S. citizens. Now, I will go ahead and give props where props are due. Rachel Levine is certainly well pedigreed. She went to Harvard and Tulane. She was a professor at Penn State. She was the former physician general in Pennsylvania. But here's a stark fact. As Americans, we are sicker and fatter than at any other time in our history, and we're getting sicker and fatter every single day. This in spite of the fact that we are spending $4.5 trillion every year on medical expenses. Now, Levine may have the intelligence and the knowledge to effectively change our health for the better, but the fact is that she has not done so. We are sicker now than when she started. And she's done nothing to combat and dismantle the staggering conflicts of interest between big food companies, big pharma, and the government. So in other words, she has not made it her mission to take these things on in order to make us healthier as citizens. And now, while Levine might have the academic credentials, she certainly lacks conviction or passion when it comes to applying health, not only to the country, but to herself. Now, and I know this is where I'm skating on some thin ice here, and I'm not even saying that being fit and healthy is a requirement to do this job, but her own lack of personal health and fitness shows either a lack of passion, maybe she just doesn't care, it's not important for her, or a lack of application knowledge. And now look, I realize this is a delicate subject. We're flirting with maybe body shaming here, but here's my point. How can you be the United States' foremost expert on health when you yourself are not healthy? If you're going to be the leading expert on health, you should be healthy. You should look healthy. You should exude health. In other words, you should lead by example. Do you really care about health if you're unwilling to do the things that make your own self healthy? And clearly, Levine has not. But that's not really my issue, right? The fact that she herself is not healthy and doesn't seem that interested in her own personal health. But to me, that stark difference in that photo of Levine and RFK Jr. side by side seems to point out the status quo versus a willingness to take on the establishment. In that picture, she represents the establishment. She is the establishment. Whereas RFK Jr. is coming at this, he's not afraid to come in and shake things up and take on the industry, right? So when we look at RFK Jr., on the other hand, this dude is 71 years old and the dude is jacked. He's in great shape. This guy can rep out strict pull-ups, which is absolutely amazing. I mean, at 71, I want to be able to rep out some strict pull-ups. And I'll say this, today, unfortunately, the way our health and wellness is going, unfortunately, most 20-year-olds can't do this. Most 20-year-old men cannot rep out strict pull-ups. They're too weak and they're too unhealthy, which is what makes that side-by-side picture of him and Levine so striking, I think. So again, coming back to my post on social media, I'll say this. On Instagram alone, we had, within 24 hours, there were at least 50 of you who unfollowed. You just unfollowed the account. You're like, nope. Kev, I was with you with all the healthy aging, maybe the get strong and stop dieting and eat real foods. With you there, not with you with this kind of a, what looks like just an attack on Levine and a personal attack on Levine, right? Or even a support of RFK Jr. So a whole bunch of you just immediately unfollowed. But on the other side, what is kind of equally as odd, a whole bunch of you followed me. So we got some new followers. We lost, I think, 20-something followers, netted all out within 24 hours. But it's very interesting that we had that kind of a reaction. And it's even more interesting, the conversation that followed underneath that. I think it was more so on Facebook than on Instagram, but there were some pretty heated debates about RFK Jr. as well as Levine. And there were some pretty striking attacks on RFK Jr. And they seem to really focus on three main things. The first is that RFK Jr. is a drug addict. How could we possibly take him seriously as the health secretary of the United States? And now look, to be fair, I don't know that much about RFK's history with drugs. I do know that he has talked about openly in the past an addiction to heroin, I think in his 20s. So he has had some issues with drug addiction and with drug abuse. And look, I don't know how we hold that against him and his ability to do the job as health secretary now. I mean, if that's the case, I'm not qualified to do what I'm doing. I also was addicted to drugs and really struggled with all sorts of nasty things in my 20s and even in my 30s. I don't know that that takes away from my authority now to have a podcast about healthy aging and about trying to help people be strong, lean, confident in their bodies. But there was a big attack. That seemed to be one of the big attacks. Hey, we can't listen to this guy. He's a drug addict. Well, he overcame a drug addiction. I'm sure he grew from that. I mean, certainly that was my personal experience from that time in my life. But it was interesting to me that was one of the things that was kind of a recurring theme when it came to RFK's Jr.'s ability to effectively be a health secretary here in the U.S. Another thing that came up a couple of times, because the picture of RFK Jr. was him looking pretty jacked. So several people have pointed out, hey, this dude's hopped up on T, meaning he's on testosterone, or he's jacked, or he's juicing on testosterone, or anybody could look like that if they took enough testosterone. That sort of an attack. Let me say this. Look, I have no idea if he's on testosterone, not on testosterone, if he's taking a whole bunch or he's just taking enough to make his testosterone hormone levels normal. Don't know, don't care, to be honest with you. But I'll say this. There is no amount of testosterone a man could take that would give him that body or the ability to rep out pull-ups. That's not how it works. You don't get a body like that by just injecting yourself with any drug, with any kind of drugs. Today, I don't think that biological technology exists. The only way that you can be strong, look strong, and actually physically be able to be 71 and rep out some pull-ups is to actually put in the work and build a lean, strong, healthy body. This dude clearly has done that. there was this whole, hey, he's hopped up on tea, this dude's juicing, that's why he looks like that, which is kind of a weird attack on him because if you consider Levine on the other side, clearly I'm guessing she's juicing. I don't know that you transition from a guy to a gal without taking tons of estrogen, maybe. I'm not even sure how that works, but it was just a weird personal attack, and I have no idea how whether he is or is not doing testosterone replacement therapy, has any impact on his ability to do this job. But that was an interesting attack. But far and away, the most prevalent attack was this sort of, he's anti-science, he's a science denier, he's anti-vax. So there was a bunch of that. And I get it, right? There is fear around change. There's fear around radical change. And he has some, to be fair, he's got some radical ideas, right? But I just thought it was really interesting that I put that post up and it just, people went nuts. There were some ugly comments in there. And I thought it was really telling, right? Because we're at this precipice, not politically. I don't really want to make this a political discussion, but we're at this precipice here when it comes to our health. So I wanted to hop on here just very quickly and do this little bonus episode of this podcast because I want to be very crystal clear on my position personally, and my position for the Silver Edge, because I realize that by just putting an inflammatory post up, people may get the wrong impression here. But my position is this: I'm not interested in making incremental changes to our status quo healthcare, food, pharma system. I'm not interested in helping you make tiny, small, incremental changes in your body composition. I want to radically transform what our perception of health looks like. I want to radically shift our perceptions of healthy aging. And yes, as coaches, we here at the Silver Edge, we help people lose fat and build muscle, but that's surface level stuff. What we really want to do is we want to radically transform our clients' lives. I want to radically transform your lives, your loved ones' lives. I want to turn you into healthy aging zealots who have an impact on the world all around you. Imagine a world where there are warning labels on soda cans and kids' cereals the way there are on a pack of cigarettes. Imagine a world where we completely eliminate blatant conflicts of interest between government agencies and big food and big pharma companies. Imagine a world where instead of spending $4.5 trillion putting temporary band-aids on lifestyle diseases, we channel that money into education and awareness programs. Imagine a world where it's illegal to spray our food with poison, where we subsidize small organic farmers. Imagine a world where organic and grass-fed foods are less expensive than ultra-processed crap. So back to that Instagram post. To me, that is a glaring comparison of the current status quo, don't rock the boat policy versus a radical, hopeful new future. Look, here's the harsh reality. We are in the midst of a pandemic. Every single measure of health is moving in the wrong direction. Cancer, autism, diabetes, dementia, all on the rise. Obesity, heart disease, hypertension, on the rise. Our hormonal health is under attack. Some studies suggest that by 2045, we will become sterile if we continue on the path we're on. So a study back in 2018 from the University of North Carolina found that only 12% of Americans are metabolically healthy. And then, just recently, in 2022, a study published in the Journal of American College of Cardiology found that only 6.8% of Americans are metabolically healthy. 6.8%. 6.8% of Americans are metabolically healthy. Let that sink in for a minute. Back in 2019, it's estimated that there were 1,053,576 deaths attributable to metabolic disease. That's 2,886 preventable deaths per day, 120 deaths per hour. That's 2 preventable deaths every single minute. So in the time you've been listening to this, 30 people have needlessly died from preventable lifestyle diseases. And I'll go out on a limb and say that every single one of those fatalities, every single one of them was on at least one pharmaceutical drug. They were probably on multiple. I mean, these stats make COVID and bird flu look like amateur hour. So that's why I think this change from the old status quo to a new radical approach is critical. I know a bunch of y'all are terrified by Trump and RFK Jr., and perhaps for a host of reasons, perhaps for really good, legitimate reasons. But when it comes to our health, what do we have to lose? I mean, seriously, Help me imagine a scenario where RFK Jr. takes on Big Pharma, he takes on Big Food and government corruption, and we, the people, lose. In other words, we get less healthy. And I get it. Change, especially radical change, is scary. And to be honest, I'm nervous about what the future of our health might look like under this administration. But you know what? I'm terrified by the prospect of nothing changing. I'm terrified for myself, for my wife, my kids, my grandkids, for my community, for my country. I'm terrified for you and your loved ones. We deserve better. You and your loved ones deserve better. So yeah, I posted an intentionally triggering picture on social media. Now, will RFK be able to make meaningful radical change? I don't know. I'm hopeful, but like a lot of you, I'm apprehensive. Even with his fervor and the support of the president, I still feel like this is a David versus Goliath type fight. There are trillions of dollars invested in the status quo, in you and I staying sick and unhealthy to prop up unhealthy markets. But for the first time in my life, I feel like there's a groundswell, a grassroots movement, and now we have a new health secretary who is at least willing to do battle with the behemoth that is the status quo. Now, you're listening to a podcast titled The Over 50 Health and Wellness Show, so you're already in the elite. You're interested in healthy aging. You care, but you are the exception to the rule. I want you to get excited not just about building a lean, strong, healthy, capable body, but about what that does to you, what that means for your life, how the journey transforms you, about the new person you become along the way, and how that affects the people around you. How it affects your spouse, your kids, your grandkids, your siblings, your loved ones, your friends, your neighbors, your community. We need more people in the world who are not satisfied with the current health status quo, who know that it's our God-given birthright to be strong and to be healthy and to be vital, who are willing to rail against a broken system that is designed, let's face it, to keep us fat, sick, and unhealthy because we're cash cows when we're gobbling down a bunch of toxic, ultra-processed food-like garbage that makes us sick so that the pharma industry can come in behind that and sell us a lifetime of Band-Aid drugs that make their shareholders rich. Okay, let me slow my roll, get down off my soapbox here. Sorry, I got a little dark there. Here's where I want to end this diatribe. At the end of the day, while I certainly champion the idea of making America healthy again, I personally don't believe it's the government's job to do so. I think it's your responsibility. It's my responsibility. True health reform in this country starts with me and you, not with some politician, not your doctor, certainly not big pharma or big food, but you and me, us. We hold the power. And as long as we are locked in these ridiculous political battles full of hateful rhetoric on both sides, I might add, we all lose. All of us. None of us grow or become healthier from that. So regardless of your political opinions, I sincerely wish you love, happiness, and abundant health. Just understand that when it comes to health, the deck is currently stacked against you. The current system is not your friend. It profits from you and your loved ones living suboptimal lives. That's not what I want. I want you to live your fullest, healthiest, most beautiful lives. All right, folks, thanks for sticking with me through this episode. I just wanted to kind of get that off my chest. I was a little surprised that that post that I put on social media got that kind of a reaction. I guess I shouldn't have been. It was probably naive of me to be surprised at that. But I just wanted to make my position clear about how I feel about the current political situation. I don't like to wade into politics on this show. And I know a bunch of you listening to this probably aren't interested in my political opinions one way or the other. But these are political times, and policy does have an impact on our health. Just wanted to let you know where I fall on the spectrum there, and I hope we can still be friends. I hope you'll still listen to this show. I hope you'll still subscribe to our social media channels, all that. But if not, you know what? That's okay as well, right? I get it. These are uncertain times. There's a lot of unpredictability out here in front of us, but I, for one, am hopeful about the future when it comes to our health. Okay, that's our show for today, folks. As we wrap up our time together, you can show your support for this show in two important ways. The first is to tell a friend about this podcast and encourage them to give it a listen. The second is for you YouTube folks to click the like and subscribe buttons, and for you podcast folks to please give this podcast a 5-star review on whatever platform you listen to podcasts on, and be sure to subscribe and follow so you don't miss any future episodes. I really appreciate you spending your time with me today, and until next time, stay strong.